So Lucy fans, finally I'm going to talk about Lucifer Season 4. You guys have been wanting me to talk about Lucifer since way back in Season 2 or 3. Now that it's come to Netflix, and after binging it, I'm going to finally give my review on this amazing new season. What is up, everybody? Welcome to my finally I'm talking about Lucifer. For the longest time, a lot of you guys have been wanting me to talk about Lucifer, whether it's in I think Season 2 or Season 3, but finally I'm going to speak about it because it got revived. It's on Netflix. All 10 episodes dropped at once. And yes, this will contain spoilers. Just because I'll be talking about it all as a whole, I might go over a couple of rough theories about, that ending, because that was a very interesting ending. But just in general, guys, I love this show. I love Lucifer so much. I was definitely one of the people who fought for Save Lucifer on Twitter. And I'm so glad it came to fruition and Netflix picked it up. And Netflix gave us a 10-episode season. And I really dig this season. It was just so much more character driven. And that does come when you don't have 22 episodes in this season. So that is what I loved about this. It just felt like a much more enjoyable experience. Not that I obviously didn't enjoy previous seasons, but sometimes filler can feel kind of draggy. And this season didn't have basically any of that outside the typical, oh, come on, Lucifer, we need to go investigate this crime. But, every time we had that in every episode, of course, they were absolutely drowning the episode with all kinds of main plot stuff. Now, one thing I've always absolutely adored about this show is that you can view it as a comedy. It's very funny, but not all comedies can do what this show does, is in how it just blends as a serious emotional kind of drama with the whole premise of it being that the devil isn't really, what everyone makes him out to be. Mix that in with his relationship with Chloe Decker and everything like that. This season had more comedy, more laughs, more funny moments, of course, because it's Lucifer, but there are many tear-jerking moments as well. And something that can make me laugh and also make me really upset at the same time, in a good way, is just a lethal combination to become a very loyal fan, I feel. Now, let's put aside my general love for Lucifer and my overview thoughts of the series, and let's talk about Season 4. What did I like? What did I find, most enjoyable? Obviously, this is a 10-episode season. Some episodes were over 42 minutes, so I'm not going to get into every, little gritty detail of it all, but maybe I'll do some more videos like a Series 5 predictions and how that can go. But I will touch on that a little bit by the end of this video, by the time we talk about that finale. But I absolutely adored how they opened the first episode with Lucifer singing Creep. I just felt like the lyrics really interweaved with the story of this season. I mean, initially you could interpret it as he's singing about Chloe being like an angel, but then Lucifer goes on to sing, of course, about how he's a creep, and this mixes in perfectly with his self-loathing for the rest of the season, and he wishes that he was special can be seen for how he wishes that he wasn't the devil he views himself as. Especially that I don't belong lyric, definitely foreshadows the ending episode where he returns to hell because he kind of has to. So guys, the plot of this season was very interesting, just because the setup from Season 3 was to the point where fans wouldn't be left with any other answer than we need a Season 4, we need to know what happens next. So this saw us with the aftermath, as I just said, of Season 3 with Chloe finding out that Lucifer is the devil definitively, and she has to, kind of digest this throughout this season. And initially in the first few episodes, it was about her overcoming it and just coming to terms with it. And this is where we're introduced to another character at the same time, known as Father Kinley. Now this is where the main plot comes in, because he reveals a prophecy of that when the devil walks the earth and finds his first love, evil shall be released. Now, of course, you could kind of say that, that could have happened a couple of seasons ago, but maybe you could also argue that Lucifer didn't truly love Chloe in those seasons, and that's why evil wasn't released sooner, because you could always, as I said, poke in holes in shows and say, why weren't demons releasing in previous seasons? But you can always make up your comic book logic of, oh, they thought that their Lord and King of Hell was returning, and as I just said, the love for Lucifer for Chloe hadn't fully blossomed at that point, by the point it had in Season 3, up until the point where demons definitely wanted their king back, and hell couldn't not sit without a ruler for much longer. So while we had on one hand Chloe trying to figure out and digest that information of how the person she, you know, kind of low-key loves is the devil, we had somebody introduced into this season who more than accepted Lucifer, shall we say, and that was Eve. Now, I really enjoyed Eve this season. I felt like she did a really good job and just blended with the cast really, really well. And it also just added a brilliant parallel of, as I just mentioned, Chloe is obviously destined for Lucifer, but is struggling and digesting all this new information. But then you have the very first woman of creation who was, you know, seduced by Lucifer, you know, the whole apple and the freaking Garden of Eden stuff, who obviously more than accepts Lucifer, and that just creates some kind of little love triangle stuff there. But this also fits in with the prophecy that I felt like they did quite a good job of this season, with how most of the audience probably assumes that Eve is his first love because Father Kinley assumes that. I think Chloe assumes that. So at this point of the season, unless you're like an eagle-eyed viewer and you predicted the end already, you think that Eve is going to be the kind of catalyst for the potential evil that's going to be released on Earth. So of course Eve was a lot of fun in this season, and she brought out a lot of fun with Tom Ellis, you know, playing Lucifer in those episodes, because how can I put it, we know that Chloe Decker is essentially the angel on Lucifer's shoulder. She always brings out the good in him, always encourages him to make the best decisions, and in quite a few episodes we even saw examples of that. We saw Eve be the complete opposite, the devil on his shoulder, and even encouraged him to do the bad things and says, yes Lucifer, do this, punish him, you know, just moments like that in this season. I really liked that contrast between Chloe and Eve. And as a result of this, we saw Lucifer's self-hatred throughout the season manifest physically with his devil form, which I feel like they definitely polished up a little bit. I don't know, let me know your thoughts there. I felt like it looked a lot better in this season manifest. So I really enjoyed how his self-loathing, his self-hatred just manifested even more and more throughout the season, to the point where you actually saw his full devil form. And yet again, guys, you can tie this all back to his performance in Lux singing Creep, and how he's a creep, he's a weirdo, what the hell am I doing here? As I said, it really does, you know, that song paved the way for the rest of this season, and it's just very poetic. Now, as a result of the 10 episodes this season and everything being so much more character driven, let's talk about a few of the other characters. So starting with Maze, I've really enjoyed her journey throughout the seasons as well, just from her being a demon who is very into the more chaotic, brutal side of things, but has a very surprising at the same time humanity to her, and that's been explored as I've mentioned over the past few seasons. But in this season, it's all about kind of connections for her. She's lacking something, and then with her therapy with Linda, that was kind of turned into how she maybe needs to find a relationship, because she was being very clingy to Linda because of that whole situation with her. So she seeks out other connections in Lux. You know, we saw her trying to date a few people, but this ultimately ends up kind of being projected onto Eve. Now, this didn't exactly work out the best for Maze because of how it ended with Eve in this series, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more from her, where her journey goes. Her journey from, it's very interesting, from demon to more of a humane level. And of course, Maze was badass as always. I would have loved to have seen more Trixie in this season. We only saw like a couple of scenes from her, like with that scene between Maze and Trixie. That was a really, really touching scene. Other than that, we only saw Trixie, like, I swear, like telling off Eve that one time, which was really funny. And now let's talk about Linda for a second. I really, really did enjoy her story this season. I mean, of course, we got the usual therapy stuff, and they have given her a bit of, you know, more story beforehand in previous seasons, but usually she is, you know, picking up the pieces of Lucifer or whoever, like Maze, and trying to sort them out and put them into context for them so they can figure out exactly, well, a therapist. Why am I explaining what a therapist does? But either way, they finally gave her something, with everything being so character-driven this season, a lot more of substance. So, of course, she was having a celestial baby, and half angel, half human baby with a Menadil. That was really hilarious. I can't wait to see where this goes into the next season. Obviously, this played in really heavily with the demon storyline towards the end of this season. And just tying in a Menadil here, I really enjoyed his storyline, because it started off with him loving humanity and wanting to basically move into Earth and not return back to the Silver City. Essentially, his faith in humanity was restored, because we even had scenes with that other angel, who I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but he had always taught her that basically humans were like ants. So it was very interesting to see Amenadiel adopt the complete opposite philosophy. But then, because of another loss he had on top of Charlotte Richards last season, even though he didn't know this guy too much, but essentially, you know, he did spend quite a bit of time with him, because of the loss of him, he, went from complete opposite end of the spectrum to how humanity have lost its way, and he wanted to even take the baby that he was having with Linda to be raised in heaven. So that was definitely complete ends of the spectrum, starting off the season as, oh, I love humans, and now, oh my god, F humans. But that kind of all equaled out by the end of this season, and as I said, Linda and Amenadiel, it's going to be super interesting to see how they move forward next year. I mean, hopefully next year if we get another season, which I'm very confident in. So who doesn't love Ella, guys? I absolutely adore how Amy Garcia portrays Ella on this show. She's one of my favorite characters. I feel like it's very self-explanatory as to why, but I really, I feel like I'm saying I really enjoyed this, I really enjoyed that, but this season was really good to me. So as for Ella, I did really like what story they gave her with how she's always been so religious in the show, but this season she was completely felt like she had no communication with the big guy. I mean, she's completely dropped religion. And that is something that also parallels with Detective Douche, aka Dan. And that is why, as random as it felt this season with, all of a sudden they hooked up, these were two characters who were in a very similar position with how after losing Charlotte Richards, Ella didn't really have much faith. Dan was just kind of spiraling out of control and going essentially like really shady and just self-destructive. And these two kind of found each other in that moment, and as I said, it kind of felt unnatural, but they were in the right spot. So other than that, really enjoyed Dan's storyline this season. It was great seeing him be a little bit less righteous and a little bit more badass but dark, but doing some quite dark things. It was cool seeing him with Maze a few times. Ella, it was cool seeing her going a bit more wild, but by the end of the season we saw Ella put her cross back on. We saw Dan finally kind of move on from Charlotte Richards, and it's going to be interesting to see what these two characters have next. I mean, what I want to see happen next is Ella find out that Lucifer is the devil, and that is, I think, the second most interesting thing next to Chloe Decker realizing it, because Ella's so religious. What's she gonna do when she realizes that she's been working with the devil as well? I really find that a compelling thing to know. So with the end of the season, guys, of course the prophecy came to fruition, even though it was kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because Eve unknowingly kind of brought it about through killing Father Kinley and sending him to hell, thus releasing the evil demons to come to the surface and reclaim their king, which Lucifer didn't want anything to do with. So as a result, they took things into their own hands by stealing Linda's baby and wanting to set up that whole thing. But either way, long story short there, Lucifer sends all of the demons back to hell. They essentially bow down to him, listen to his orders, only because of the promise of he will essentially go down there with them. So we had that farewell scene between Chloe and Lucifer where Chloe admits her love for Lucifer and how he's not the devil. And the big revelation, if you figured this out or not, is that Eve wasn't, Lucifer's first love. It was actually Chloe. And that is why this season becomes very, very, very clear with that prophecy that when the devil walks the earth and finds his first love, Eve will be released. Well, of course, that was Chloe Decker all along. So it was a very bittersweet kind of ending, because finally they confess their love for each other, but Lucifer now has to go back down to hell. And how is he ever going to come out of that? Because we saw him sat there on top of the throne, and you just kind of think that you could almost end it here. And I pray that we get another season. I don't see why we wouldn't, because it kind of parallels the beginning with Lucifer being in hell, coming to Earth for vacation, and now with this ending of season 4, he goes back to hell. Chloe and Lucifer have told each other that they love each other. So I thought that ending was wrapped up quite nicely with all of the developments of the season so far. But, you're probably asking the question of, but how will Lucifer come back? Because we need it. I mean, if we get another season, blatantly, he's going to be in LA, the City of Angels, just like every season, and we're going to see him, sporting around with Chloe. They're going to have that same kind of usual dynamic, I assume, but we need a celestial. Like, that's the requirement to be sat on the throne. It's definitely a brain-racking one, because I don't think it's going to be as simple as, oh, another angel just flies down there and Lucifer's, free to walk amongst the earth for the next season. But wrapping up this video, guys, because it's been going on way too longer than what I wanted it to. This season was very enjoyable. It was very satisfying from the end of last season. I'm very happy Lucifer is back. I really, really hope we get a season 5. I don't see why we wouldn't with the way this fan base is going. It's got such a strong family, and I'm sure Lucifer will come back for at least another 10 episodes and see where it goes from there. It goes without saying that this season, in terms of like acting, it was very, very good. Like Tom Ellis, do I need to say more? He's born for this role. He lives and breathes the charismatic, devilly charm in every episode that he carries with him throughout the series. Very, very perfectly. I could, you know, shower this guy with compliments, and the rest of the cast, like Laura German, I believe her name is, who plays Chloe Decker. She was fantastic. You know, she's a very, very good actress. I just want to say they all are. But let me know what you thought of this season down in the comments below, guys. Also, let me know your theories on how the heck Lucifer is going to get his way out of hell, but also keep somebody else on the throne, because as we all like know now, that needs to be the throne needs to be sat on by somebody. Also, let me know if you want to see more Lucifer videos, maybe a predictions video where they can go from here, just things like that. But aside from that, everybody, if you did go ahead and enjoy this video, crush that thumbs up button. It really does help the videos and the channel out, helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. Other links are in the description down below, like my social media and stuff. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Lucy fans in the next Lucifer video.